We're here with YPO at the World Economic Forum in 2023 in Davos, and I have the pleasure of having with me the Prime Minister of Albania, Mr. Edi Rama. Thank you so much for your time. Mr. Prime Minister, you are the only Prime Minister in the history of Albania to have won 3 consecutive terms. What do you attribute this success to?
First of all, the history of Albania in terms of free elections is still too short. So maybe it's not such an outstanding historical achievement. On the other hand, I think that to win a 3rd term, the others have to be bad. So I hope that I got to the 3rd term because I'm good, but I'm sure the others were bad.
A lot to discuss there. I do think you did a lot of good things. Let's talk a little bit about an initiative that I think is important, the Open Balkan initiative and establishing the 4 freedoms. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the idea, how it came about, and how you're seeing it play out in...
In 2014, Angela Merkel gathered all the leaders of the region, what is called and known like the Western Balkans, although Balkans is a definition that is very much disputable, and was used for the first time in the 19th century to define our peninsula. We are the Southeast Europe Peninsula. But anyhow, for the first time ever, the leaders of the Balkans were together around the table, not to kill each other, or not to discuss and fight about the past victories and defeats, but to think about how a way of cooperation towards the future could be imagined. And since then, it started a very, very important historical process in our region of regional communication and cooperation, which is known with the name of Berlin process. But the trouble was that the Berlin process that succeeded politically, where no one imagined that anyone or anything would succeed in terms of bringing together the Western Balkan countries, stumbled in its own way towards ambitious objectives like improving the regional infrastructure, improving the regional energy system, improving the regional digital economy. And from where we thought that was a good idea to create a new locomotive of this process and to start and work in-house towards the same objectives, but without waiting for Berlin or Brussels to think about our problems and to solve our problems, or to be the only reason for which we could sit together around the table. And we decided to do it also to avoid vetoes and to avoid the never-ending effort to have consensus for everything. This is how the Open Balkans started, and this is why I strongly believe that Open Balkans are a very important instrument to make happen the Berlin process.
And are you seeing it now that it's materializing, play out the way you imagined it?
It could be better, of course, but it has done very, very important things. And it has also somehow served to revive the Berlin process, because them who, for their reasons, do not like the Open Balkans and support the Berlin process, entered in a different speed to revive the Berlin process. So it's a good process. It's a good, let's say, complementary race towards the future.
Let's talk a little bit more, and discuss a little bit the economy. Albania has grown a lot. Its GDP went from around 11.3 billion in 2015. You're about 18 billion in 2021. We'll see the 2022 numbers. Tourism has done very well. It's up, if I'm not mistaken, 18% since 2019. What do you see the future for Albania and the economy and tourism?
In relative terms, in the last 3 decades, Albania has grown more than every other country in Europe. But as a matter of fact, we started from Stone Age, so we were very, very much behind, and we are still behind. Because whatever the growth, whatever the speed, it's not easy to catch a train of history that we took with a delay of 500 years. So it's very important also to not forget that the time we live in is very different. It's a time where you don't have time. It's a time where and a place where people compare themselves and compare the country every single hour with the best and the biggest, with Germany, with Britain, with France, and of course, the gap is still big. And in the meantime, these countries are very near, a few hours. So why a kid of 20 years would have to wait for another 20 years to see his country be responding to his needs, instead of taking the train and going, or taking the plane and going, or taking the boat and going. And in this, we also have the trouble that while being in the heart of Europe, we have a different treatment. So we are a second-hand community in terms of how we have to face crisis compared to EU countries that can rely on a huge European Union support and funds. And so I doubt that other countries, neighborly countries that are around us, would survive if they would not have the European Union support.
And let me, you've done a lot of work, and I want to perhaps go back a little bit into your background. You are a painter, you've been a professional athlete in basketball, and I could see that when you walked in the room. Semi-professional. Do you think these have influenced your leadership style at all?
Yeah, leadership is about who you are, and who you are defines in different ways. A leadership role, and yes, I think yes. Playing sports, it's very important to understand the dynamics of a team, to understand collective work, to understand individual egos and the need to harmonize them, and also to understand the power of leadership. Art is a different thing. It's a very solitary exercise, and you don't deal with human beings. You deal with different paints, and you deal with different notes in music, and you deal with different words. But you are an absolute dictator, because you can pick the colors you want. You can erase the words you want, which is not the case with people. So that's why I say careful, Being an artist can be a good thing, but can be a terrible thing for the leadership. And we have known artists, although mediocre ones, that have made horrors while leading. So I have to be careful in picking artists to lead.
Fair enough, and I like the balance between the two. We're talking to an audience of top leaders around the world, 35,000, 146 countries. What advice would you give them in terms of making impact and change in their areas? Is there something that through your journey you could share or advise people who really want to make an impact out there?
I'm the Prime Minister of Albania, and from day one in office I told my ministers, please try to check the map of the world before you leave home to go to work. Because you need to realize that Albania is very small, and so don't play God in any way. Yeah, I'm told, but still I'm not in a good place to advise anyone. But to not escape completely your question, I would say that one thing I would say nowadays, we are experiencing a very, very particular situation with a very vicious cyber attack, and from a state that has incredible resources and has very world-known, malign way of looking at the world, which is Iran. And so I got to learn about the pain of a cyber attack and the implications and the potential of cybercrime. And really, I'm very worried because one virus, namely COVID-19, succeeded to disrupt the world for quite some time. Imagine that when it comes to cybercrime, it's about exponentially big number of viruses that are in the air every day, and with exponential level of mutations. And of course they don't aim our own body, but they aim the body we live in, our states, our institutions, our systems, our world. And they have the potential of apocalypse. And I think that if the world will not come to senses and to realize that it's about something huge coming in our way, climate change will look really a joke compared to this, because we will not have time to achieve the goals of climate change, and the world may end before. And I think I'm not exaggerating. Cybercrime today is, if it was a state, it would be the third largest economy of the world after US and China. 2015 its potential was measured 3 trillion. 2025 is forecasted 10.5 trillion. So
it's big.
Just keep it in mind, and it's a malicious presence in our lives that is growing, and that cannot be tackled separately from each other. It's impossible. And to give you just one example, because it's a virus, it's a kind of virus that it's not just about blocking you and shutting you down at home, it's about controlling you, and it's even about deviating your weapons, deviating your machines, deviating your sources and resources against you. And imagine if a cyber attack succeeds to use the airplanes that are flying now in the sky and to turn them in bombs. It's apocalypse.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Let me close with one question. We're here in the World Economic Forum. Is there any particular need or issue that you feel should be addressed this year by the community here at the World Economic Forum?
It's the second time for me in Davos. I don't like this place, and I'm not saying that it's not a place to be liked. far from it, but it's too complicated for me and too crowded and too much of show off and so on. But it is just personal, and for your internal use, you can use it. But this second time, since yesterday, during all hours and during all conversations, I had an echo in my ear of a Russian proverb. Our future is very certain. It's our past that is completely unpredictable.
Very interesting, very interesting. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for being with us, and I do hope in the future to have you again in YPO to continue this discussion and dialogue.
YPO has an advantage that has a very certain past. So I hope your future will be very well predicted.
I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Thank you.